Today, we're breaking down how tank damage actually works in Battlefield 6. In this anti-armor guide, we'll break down where tanks are the strongest, where they're the weakest, and some pretty crazy info about critical tank damage locations. Once you have this info, you'll be able to take down enemy armor faster or survive longer in your own tank. Let's get it. So this is an update to my original tank damage video from the beta. But now that the full game is out, you can properly test all the damage values. For those that didn't watch the video, here's the quick summary. Every tank in Battlefield 6 has directional armor values, meaning the damage changes depending on which part of the tank gets hit and what angle it's hit from. The front is the strongest and most armored. The sides and turret are a little weaker and take more damage. And the rear is the sweet spot. Two well-placed shots back there can completely destroy most tanks. But one thing that isn't talked about much is critical damage. Most vehicles actually have a fourth damage zone that can deal even more damage than the rear. Now, the way vehicle damage works is mostly carried over from previous Battlefield titles, but they do make small adjustments with each release. To see what's changed in Battlefield 6, I went straight into portal mode and started testing everything. The goal here was simple, to find the best ways to destroy tanks and enemy armor, while also figuring out the best defense when in the driver's seat. To keep things consistent, I used the RPG 7v2 for all the testing. And by the way, this is easily the best anti-vehicle launcher in the game right now. It does nearly the same damage as the multi-purpose shell from the main battle tank. Video coming soon if you guys are interested. First, we did a range test to see if there were any damage drop-offs. And up to 50 meters, there were no noticeable drop-offs at all. Next, we tested every side of the tank, starting with the front. As expected, this is the most armored part of the vehicle, and the RPG only did about 20% damage to the front. The sides of the tank took about 35% damage, and the rear, being one of the weakest spots, took nearly 60% damage per hit. Now, the turret has its own damage profile. It's essentially armored the same way as the sides of the tank, so you'll deal about the same amount of damage. But one mistake I see all the time is players shooting the back of the turret thinking it's also a weak spot. Unfortunately, that area is still armored, so you'll actually deal less damage there. If you do manage to get behind a tank, make sure you're aiming low enough to hit the rear armor damage multiplier. This can also work to your advantage in some cases. For example, if a tank is rolling towards you, but their turret is turned around and they're fighting someone else, you can shoot the rear of the turret and actually deal more damage than if you hit the front of the tank. The last damage locations we tested were the top and underside of the tank. Both of these are considered weak spots and are armored similarly to the rear. So hitting either one gives you big damage numbers and that 2-shot kill potential. Now, the reason I didn't get into exact numbers earlier is because of how directional armor works. Basically, the greater angle of impact, the less damage you deal. So in a perfect world, you want to fire a shot perpendicular to your target. That perfect 90-degree angle to deal the most damage possible. As you move away from that angle, the damage starts to drop off. The larger the angle, the lower your damage number gets. Fortunately, there's a lower damage cap, meaning even if you just graze the tank, you'll still do a minimum amount of damage. This concept is super important because even if you hit a weak spot, if your angle is bad, you can actually do less damage than hitting a stronger area at a better angle. So positioning is key when taking that first shot. If you got a clean shot at the side, take it. If getting a good angle on the rear or top isn't possible, don't overcommit. Just take the side shot and reposition later. So overall, when it comes to dealing maximum damage, your top 3 weak points are the rear, the top, and the underside of the tank. Those are where it's weakest. Next, you've got the sides of the hull, plus the sides and rear of the turret. And as a last resort, if you can't hit anything else, you can shoot for the front or front turret, but keep in mind that's minimal damage. Unless the tank is already smoking or one shot, it's usually better just to save the rocket. Now here's where things get interesting. Some tanks have special damage locations where you can deal even more damage than hitting the top or the rear. But before we get into that, real quick, I'm on my road to 1,000 subs and I love geeking out on all this Battlefield stuff. So if you're enjoying the breakdown, please hit that sub button and drop a like if you can. I do appreciate the support. Anyhow, back to testing. So while I was grinding through this, shooting tanks from every angle, I stumbled across a few random moments where I was hitting for 75% damage in a single shot, which is way higher than any normal weak spot. I made a video about this a few days ago, and it turns out this happens when you hit the gun or turret on a tank, specifically when it's equipped with a grenade launcher turret. Basically, if you shoot the area where the grenade rounds are stored, you'll trigger a massive critical hit. Unfortunately, it's hard to replicate. I've tested this over 100 times and I still can't pinpoint the exact location, but when it hits hard. I also found another interesting case with the Chimera Tank Skin, the one you get from the Phantom Edition bundle. When I brought it into a test server, I found 4 small caps around the turret that all acted as critical damage points. When hit with rockets, they dealt huge critical damage. I'm pretty sure the devs added this intentionally, just like the grenade launcher's critical zone, but it's kind of hilarious that a skin you pay extra for actually makes your tank worse. It's the first time I've ever seen true pay to lose in a shooter. But one of the coolest things I found was a hidden damage zone that only appears after you deal enough damage to the tank. Basically, once the tank takes heavy damage, one of its side panels pops open, exposing part of the inner structure. If you shoot that exposed area, it becomes a critical damage location and you deal massive bonus damage. It's a really cool detail and I think the devs definitely added these intentionally. A little Easter egg that makes vehicle combat even more dynamic and rewarding. I'm still testing and trying to find as many of these as possible, but if you found any weak spots or Easter eggs, let me know in the comments. I'd love to check them out and maybe do a follow-up video featuring more of these hidden gems. I've also got a new video coming soon all about the engineer class, breaking down which gadgets actually work and which ones don't. So if you're into that kind of stuff, stay tuned. Anyhow, appreciate all the support, and as always, I'll see you guys on the battlefield.